Why are people leaving Washington State for Idaho, and where are they going? If you're in Washington State right now thinking about leaving, you're not alone. And most people aren't leaving for the reason you'd expect. I'm Amy Stauffer, a realtor in Idaho, and I work with a lot of buyers relocating from Washington State. Over the past few years, this has gone from a trickle to a very consistent pattern. And what's interesting is how similar the conversations are every single time. A lot of people assume that this move is just about cost of living, and while that's part of it, it's not usually the full story. Washington has seen significant increases in home prices, especially in areas like Seattle and the surrounding suburbs, where median home prices have remained well above the national average. Even with some market shifts, affordability is still a real concern for a lot of buyers, particularly when you factor in property taxes, insurance, and the overall cost of maintaining a home. At the same time, Idaho, especially areas like Boise, Meridian, Eagle, and throughout the Treasure Valley, has continued to attract buyers because it offers something different. It is about not just price, it's about how people want to live day to day. What I hear most often from Washington buyers is that they're looking for space, both inside and outside the home. Larger lots, quieter neighborhoods, less congestion, and a pace that feels more manageable. That shift in lifestyle is a major driver behind the move. There's also a growing focus on flexibility. A lot of people are relocating now who are either fully remote or hybrid for their jobs, which means they're no longer tied to being within a certain distance of the city center. That opens up an entirely new option for them, and Idaho tends to come up quickly in the search because it still offers relative affordability compared to many parts of Washington State. Another factor that comes up consistently is taxes. Washington does not have a state income tax, which is a major advantage, but Idaho does. However, Idaho's overall cost of living, including costs in many areas, can offset that difference depending on your price point and how you structure your move. This is where it becomes less about headlines and more about your specific situation. What is interesting is that most people are not making this decision overnight. It usually starts as a question. Does it still make sense to stay here long term? Then it turns into research, then a visit, and then eventually a more serious conversation about making the move. When people do decide to move, where they go in Idaho depends a lot on their priorities. Buyers who still want proximity to restaurants, coffee shops, and the more active lifestyle tend to look in Boise. Those looking for newer construction, planned communities, and a slightly more suburban feel often gravitate towards Meridian. And buyers who want more space, larger lots, and a quieter, more residential feel often end up in Eagle. What surprises a lot of people is that they do not always choose based on commute alone. Lifestyle ends up playing a much larger role than expected. Access to the foothills, the greenbelt, outdoor recreation, and just the overall feel of an area tends to carry more weight once they actually spend time here. Another shift I see is in what buyers prioritize in the home itself. In Washington especially, the more dense areas, people are often more used to maximizing smaller spaces. When they start looking in Idaho, priorities change quickly. Home offices become important. Storage matters more. Outdoor living space becomes a bigger factor. Garages, RV bays, parking, all the functional layouts start to move up the list. And this is where the decision really becomes personal. Idaho is not the right move for everyone. Some people move here and realize they miss the energy and the infrastructure of a larger metro area. Others feel like they finally have the space and lifestyle they've been looking for. If you are in Washington and you're starting to question whether staying makes sense long term, the most important thing you can do is to get clear on what you actually want in your day-to-day life, not just the cost. not just the headlines, but how you want to live. If you're considering a move to Idaho and you want a clear picture of what that could look like for you, I'm happy to walk you through it based on your goals, your timeline, and what you're really trying to change. I also have a fantastic relocation guide I'm happy to send to you. And if this video gave you some sort of clarity, make sure to like and subscribe. I share a lot of content for people relocating to Idaho so you can make a smart, confident decision before you make your move. I'm Amy Stauffer, your relocation and all things Idaho expert. I will see you in the next video.